All right, hey everybody. Here is another video to help you on your take-home final exam questions. We already did one for question number 1 about your YouTube channel, so now we'll do one for number 2, which is explain the development of photojournalism ethics with regard to staging photos. At what point did it become unacceptable in photojournalism to stage photos? That comes from your notes, but we'll go over it again right now. Does it cast some doubt on some of the famous photos from the early days of photography? For example, do you think Death of a Loyalist Soldier, which again we'll look at in a second, by Robert Capa was staged? In photojournalism, is it ever acceptable to stage a photo? Are portrait shots the only time when it's okay to stage a photo? Where do you personally draw the line? Okay, so as we know, you want to have a combination of the following things in your answer. You want a personal opinion and analysis that just comes from you. This is you talking, essentially, and you want to highlight that in red. Anything that comes from class discussion or a class PowerPoint, highlight that blue for me. And I want you you no longer have to quote the textbook because some of you left spring break without having any textbooks. So, but we still want at least 2 sources. Highlight the source number 1, which can be your textbook, doesn't have to be, but highlight that in yellow, and you can either directly quote that source or you can paraphrase that source. And make sure you include the link, or if it's the textbook, make sure you include the page number. And green is your second source that you are quoting in the answer. There are tons and tons of articles online. You can just do a Google search and just look for a good article from a reputable source like the New York Times, Washington Post, National Geographic, CNN, ABC News, NBC News, just a credible news outlet. Okay, so in question number 2 here, here is a link to download the PowerPoint that we went over. And it's photojournalism history, so you can download it here. And after you download it, you can pull it up and let's go through it. Just really quickly want to go through some things here. As you remember, photojournalism, in the history of photojournalism, we noticed that this photo, people question whether it's real or not. As you remember from the lecture, it was pointed out that the landscape in Spain where this photo supposedly happened, the landscape doesn't look like that. So that is one argument for why this photo is not real and that it was staged. And photojournalism ethics really changed in the 50s. And here's an example of someone who refused to stage any of his photos. W. Eugene Smith, who photographed a lot for Life magazine. Here's an example from a photo essay he did called Country Doctor, where he went around and followed a single doctor that performed basically every medical procedure that the town needed. And it was called Country Doctor. And essentially what we get from this switch to candid photos is that we realize candid photos are better photos than staged photos. So that is one thing that you can talk about in this answer. Let's look back at this question for a second. Go back to question number 2. So yeah, let me know if you have any other questions about essay question number 2 here. Remember to have those hyperlinks like this when you quote an outside source, and let me know if you have any questions.